the Wrestle Talk podcast.
Without the night out, you're tuned into Wrestle Talk. 657-383-1521. We'll be discussing WWE, NXT, Lucha Underground, ROH, fantasy wrestling, and we have some of the best damn interviews for professional and independent wrestling that you've ever heard.
And I'm Joe Lamb. Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts, keep your arms in the vehicle at all times. Wrestle Talk begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Enjoy the ride. Are you trying to get crazy with this thing? Don't you know I'm loco? What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? I am back once again. My goodness, how I've missed my fans and my friends and the supporters of the Wrestle Talk podcast. I missed you guys last week. I wish I could have been on the show, but, you know, I was at home with 100 and some degree temperature, and it would not have worked out very well. But I'm thankful that I have, you know, guys that help me out, such as the Night Owl and Sunny Money Mayo and you know, and everybody that helps us out. You know, Skywalker, Luke, Robert, everybody. Thank you so much. And last week was an amazing week. I got to listen to the interview, you know, on the replay, which if you're not listening to the show live, you can listen to the show on replay. You can listen to every single one of our episodes at www.wrestletalk.net. Amazing. I recommend you go there. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a great night tonight. We got Brady Hicks. We got Greg Oliver. We got the High Spot segment, the Shoot and Shout segment, the Wrestle Talk podcast game show challenge, the fantasy wrestling segment, the Snippets of Truth segment, and yeah, it's going to be freaking awesome. You may hear some coughing. I do have a little bit of a cough still, so if you hear coughing, just try to ignore it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and bring in the man, the myth, the legend, the Night Owl.
Unmuted. ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa? Loyal members of the Wrestle Talk familia, thank you for joining us on today's episode 225. That's right, 225 of the WTP is going down tonight. But man, we're going to have to start off on a sour note. First and foremost, you said something about your fans. Listen, there's no fans of the Wrestle Talk podcast. Those people, we refer to them as Wrestle Talk family. I know you've been gone, a little under the weather. I get it. I know you tried some natural cures, Joe, that maybe are affecting your short-term memory. And then you gave the people the website wrong. It's not WrestleTalk.net, man. It's WrestleTalkPodcast.com.
Never drew a dime. Not a dime. Not a dime.
Joe, I'm supposed to be nice to you. That's what Skywalker told me. That's what intern Timmy told me. But you know what? I'm not letting you get away with any of that nonsense. So come correct or keep your ass in bed. You feel me?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, that said, Joe, let me tell you something. Actually, let me take a little drink of this tequila. Oh yeah, that was definitely made in Mexico. Well, anyway, y'all, I want to know how I know that, because I can taste a hint of scorpion and manliness in every drink that I take. That's how you know it's made in Mexico. But anyway, Joe, all kidding aside, bro, I missed you. Sunny Money came in, did a fill-in job, did a fairly decent job, you know, until he got way too drunk. And, you know, we all know Stumbling Sunny. Money Mayo goes from Money Mayo to Stumbling Sunny after a couple of drinks. So I did my best to prop that man up, but he got a little bit out of control. Nonetheless, we're grateful to him for being here last week and helping us with the show. But really, you know who carried the show last week, man? The callers, bro. We had tons of people call in. The Roman Dynasty was absolutely on fire. The FWWC segment was crazy, man. And that's why we love the Wrestle Talk family so much, man, because when we're not at 100%, you guys are right there to pick us up and help us carry on, man. So thank you guys out there. And I want to send a very special shout out to Brandon, my dude. He's got some things going on a personal level. His wife's not feeling 100% well. So we hope that you, sir, and your family and your wife have a speedy recovery. I'm hoping to be able to check in with you tomorrow at some point and see how you're coming along. But we love you, and we hope that she gets well very, very soon. On that note, Jonesy, again, gonna have to bring down the mood tonight, man. And the reason is, bro, that now for the 4th week in a row, we have lost somebody who was a former guest or friend of the Wrestle Talk podcast, man. And I'm talking about TNT Kenny G, man. He was here with us, Joe, a couple of weeks ago. We had a fantastic interview. We're going to pay him the proper respect and hit that 10-bell salute, bro. But you got an opportunity to sit in with that interview, and I know that it left a lasting impression with me, bro. But I wanted to ask you before we did the 10-bell, man, can you please tell me any memories that you might have of that interview and how privileged you felt to have an opportunity to have talked to TNT Kenny G before his passing?
Oh, dude, it was such an awesome interview. Just being able to talk to a guy that has, you know, such a big wrestling knowledge, and you know, he was totally 100% backing up his daughter Santana, you know, in her professional wrestling career, and you know, it was just awesome listening to his stories, and you know, listening to a man that was insanely proud of what his daughter was doing in the professional wrestling business as well. It was pretty awesome.
Dude, you know what, Jonesy? I couldn't agree with you more, man. And the fact of the matter is, I'll tell you one thing that really stuck out with me, man. We talked to TNT Kenny G for about 40 minutes. And in those 40 minutes, the man only talked about himself for like 5. He loved talking about his experiences with other people. He loved talking about, you know, the development of pro wrestling in the Midwest. You know, we talked about the old Gateway days and some of the stuff that he was doing back in the early 90s, late 80s. And it's just phenomenal. I mean, to think of a guy that could probably write a book or probably could have written a book about his life and what he did in the world of pro wrestling. But instead of putting himself over, he chose to put everybody else over. And that kind of humble attitude, everybody who paid homage on social media, anybody that I talked to that had any run-ins or any experience with Kenny G, that's what they always said. That's what everybody says, from Jeremy Wyatt to Skywalker, Luke Roberts, and all the way down the line. Everybody was like, yo, that was one of the nicest, most genuine dudes on the planet. But at the same time, he was funny as hell. The dude knew how to crack a joke, and he knew the wrestling business inside and out, man. His contributions in the ring, as a promoter, as the father Santana Garrett, man, they will last forever, man, in pro wrestling history. And we're fortunate enough, Jonesy, to have some of that history in our archives available to everybody at WrestleTalkPodcast.com forever. Whenever y'all want to hear that interview, y'all want to hear Kenny G's voice again in his purest form, that's where you got to go. So that said, intern Timmy, why don't you go ahead and cue up that 10-bell salute, man, as we ask everybody to please remove their caps as we honor the life, not the death, but the life of one TNT Kenny G. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for that. Joe, it's been a rough go, man. I don't know what it is about the tail end of 2018, man. It seems like we're just losing people, you know, one after another, man. And any thoughts you might share before we move on with the show?
You know, it does seem that way, that we're just losing people left and right, and it definitely stinks. And you know, here's the hoping that we don't lose anybody else. We don't need to lose anybody else. They ain't going it.
No, we don't, man.
People already.
Too many. But you know what, bro? I'm gonna put a little bit of my personal kind of feelings into this, man. I do hope that all these folks that we've lost recently, man, from TNT to Larry Matisic and everybody in between, you know, Kyle King, and not Kyle King, Casey King, you know, Derek, everybody, man. I hope that they knew Christ, because there is an opportunity for us to experience these people again, and that is post-earth. And you don't have to agree with me, y'all. That's fine. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But what I will tell you is, if there is no hope for life after this, then things are looking pretty bleak. So I would prefer to have a little bit of faith and hope that not by good works, but by faith, we all have an opportunity to have a reunion someday, and we could watch legends that I could go down the line, man. Maybe we'll see Macho Man, you know, one day against Owen Hart, you know, in the big ring in the sky. So I'm optimistic about that possibility, bro, and I hope you guys will share that optimism with me. If you don't, that's cool. But I will tell you what, man, I'm looking forward to that day. I really, really am. So now, to push that all to the side, we do have a show to get through. But before we move forward, let me shout out to the folks that have already joined us on the Facebook live feed. I see those hearts flying across the screen, those thumbs up flying. We'd love to see those. We want you guys to continue doing that. But also, please share this broadcast. Any pro wrestling pages, your personal page, anybody that you think might appreciate the Wrestle Talk podcast, send them our way by sharing. Let me give a quick shout out, Jonesy, before we get on to the national anthem. For the people that have already locked in the Wrestle Talk podcast tonight, considering we're competing with NXT. So shout out to y'all. Shout out to my man Robert. Shout out to Big Sexy Chris Rodell. Shout out to Wild Man Beast. Shout out to Brandon Gomez. Shout out to Chad Jackson. Shout out to Jay Hollywood, Joe Bowman, Chad Jackson, Victor Escarpita, Billy Simmons, Sonny Muddy Mayo, Shelly, John Thane, Brandon Buck, and that's as far up as it lets me go. I think there's like another 4 or 5 names up there. But thank you guys for being here. Thank you for tapping the hearts and the thumbs up. It really means a lot to us. And please, again, if you would be so kind, share this broadcast. All right? Awesome. Intern Timmy, let's get into the show, baby. All the initial business is out of the way. Let's go ahead and ask everybody to remove their caps one more time and place their hands over their hearts as we pay homage to the greatest country on God's green earth. And that's America, damn it.
Oh, say, can you see and the rocket? Uh-oh. I'll make up for it now. Oh, the land of the free.
Man, I missed that last week. It brings a tear to my eye every single time.
Well, me too, Jonesy. And listen, I know you got a lot of stuff you want to talk about, man. I know we want to talk about Mike Outlaw over at Proving Ground Pro. We want to talk about, you know, the incredible MEW show from this past weekend, the MWA show. We want to talk about this Buffet Club party that's going on this Saturday. But, bro, I have it on good authority that as busy as this man is preparing for tomorrow night's inaugural Journey Pro show, DJ Stewart has decided to call into the Wrestle Talk podcast tonight and join us for a few minutes. Oh, shout out to Izzy. Izzy, man, thank you for checking us out again, bro. Love to have you back on the show sometime. Intern Timmy, why don't you cue up something hard, baby, something that strikes a chord, so to speak, so we can give my man DJ a proper introduction as he joins us for a few minutes to talk about tomorrow's Journey Pro show right here in the great state of Kansas. Intern Timmy, hit the music and let's welcome in DJ for the very first time. Yo, DJ, what it do? What up?
Renee, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Poppy. What's up?
Yo. Oh, man, I'm happy to be here. Just getting ready for tomorrow. How you doing tonight, man?
Bro, I hate to steal a line from Stuart Scott, man, but I'm cooler than the other side of the pillow, bro. How are you?
Man, I'm riding high on excitement. Nonstop getting ready for tomorrow. It's a mixture of all the emotions, man, but I am excited.
Well, you know what, DJ, man, let me start off by thanking you for making time for me and my partner Jonesy here tonight, who's actually residing all the way out in West Virginia, man. And even from a distance, I know he's been watching and really excited about everything you guys got going over on Journey Pro. And we'll get into that in just a second, man. But I want to talk about you for a minute, man. I know we had a chance to kind of interface a few times here and there at different shows. At the Anarchy in Kansas show, we kind of had a little bit more time to kind of say what's up to each other, whatever. But you yourself have a very interesting story, and there's a reason you're always going at 100 miles an hour, man. So why don't you share with us a little bit about you, some of the things and challenges that you've dealt with, and what's led you to today, man, the day before the first ever Journey Pro show.
Oh man, yeah, you ain't lying. I've had an interesting year. Some things up against me, maybe health wise, and yeah, you were mentioning I go 1,000 miles an hour at every chance I get. That's because earlier this year I learned that I have the big C word, big old bummer of cancer. But I am a very lucky man, and I caught it early. And everything should be good to go on that as long as I keep busting my ass. And that has led to a big boost in the motivation to make Journey Pro the best possible thing that we can. Because like I said, nothing is promised to me. So I'm here to kick ass while I can, man. And this is wrapping up to be the thing that I am the most proud of everything I've done.
Well, you know what, man, I can totally understand why you're taking full advantage of what many would say is a second opportunity at life, man. And I'm glad that you're not wasting any time, dude. You're putting your time and your effort into something that you love. You want to leave a legacy, and that all starts tomorrow night, man. And I know that, we could sit here and talk about the card and all that stuff. And that'd be all well and good. But really for me, man, it's always about letting people know who it is that they're going to go support. They obviously know the wrestlers. Everybody knows Matt Cross. Everybody knows the besties in the world. Everybody knows Jeremy Wyatt. But it's you and Walter and Gabe that are really the core of what's going on over there at Journey. And I guess I have to ask this question because you did mention it. So when you saw a little bit earlier this year what happened with Roman and leukemia and him having to step away, I'm curious, man, considering what you went through earlier this year, did that hit a little bit closer to home with you than it would with somebody who hasn't dealt with that?
That hit very, 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 very close to home to me. I was a fan of Roman, in the first place. I think he's a great worker, busts his ass, everything. So I already thought highly of the man. And to come out and hear, I'll never forget even, watching it right then, to hear someone that, is a hero, prize him throughout the world, to know that man is in similar shoes to me made me feel connected with an entertainer on a level that I had never felt before, which is saying something because, I think you're the same way as I am. We feel this business. We live this business. And that was something that hit very close to home, like you said, 100%. And I mean, God, all my prayers to that man. His fight is one of the hardest that you can absolutely have. And I was lucky enough to be in a situation that maybe I had a step up. He's got a longer road ahead. And I pray for him, like I said, all the time, man. Man, true hero.
Well, that's awesome, and I love to hear you say that. Joe, I know I kind of sprung this one on you, man, but I know you'd be excited. I wanted to keep it as a little bit of a surprise because I know from a distance you've heard me talk about it. You've seen it all over social media, man. Journey Pro's getting ready to have their inaugural show tomorrow night, man. So I'm curious, why don't you jump on in here, man, with any questions or comments you might have for DJ?
Absolutely. So, you know, the inaugural show is coming up, like we've been saying. What do you hope that the fans get out of coming to see your inaugural show?
What I want the fans to do is to leave happy, and I think that's what we all want. That's a pretty generic answer, but I want them to come in, enjoy themselves, and then when they leave, we all want them to kind of have a feeling that, you know, that was something different. That was something I hadn't seen before. Everybody in wrestling likes to say that they're gonna, you know, we're doing something different here, and that gets tossed around a lot. But I truly believe that Gabe, Walter, and I have really worked incredibly hard to put together something that feels different than we've had before. Not to take away from any of the fantastic wrestling that's gone down in our city, but you know, the times are obviously changing, and we want to change with them, and we want to bring a different kind of independent wrestling to Kansas City.
Absolutely. So it's one of those things where you want them to enjoy themselves, and you want them to want to come back for more, basically, is what you're basically saying.
Absolutely, 100%. And I also, my biggest goal in all of this is to bring people who might not have understood how amazing professional wrestling really is. If we can get them in the door, I feel so confident in our product that we will make new fans every chance we can get. I think everybody's aware that wrestling's on the up right now. Wrestling is hot as fire, and it's because it's cool. It's damn cool again. We're doing awesome stuff, and we just want to be a part of people doing awesome stuff in an industry that we all love.
Well, I know that if I was closer, I would definitely be at the show, and I'm sure that Renee wants to be there as well. And it sounds like it's going to be an amazing show, and I'm kind of jealous I'm not going to be able to make it there.
Sorry, Joe.
Man, we wish we could have you there. There will be a lot more to come, so hopefully you can make it out to one. But we will be releasing the show. This will be a show that you will be able to find online in the very near future. So keep an eye on all the social media. We'll be announcing everything as it comes. We work real hard to make sure that our fans are involved every step of the way, and they know when things are coming, because we're trying to do this all together. We hit the DIY thing pretty hard, and we want it to be a family. You know, we want Journey to be something that people are proud to help out of and look forward to.
Absolutely. So, Renee, you got any more questions, sir?
Well, I do. And I did want to touch on a couple of the matches real briefly. But before I get there, I have a question for you, DJ. Yeah. You guys do an outstanding job, even early on, of, like you said, making sure that the fans know what's going on. And I try to watch as much as I can. Sometimes watching some of these live feeds that different, wrestlers do and promotions do can be a little bit painful. I'm sure people feel the same way about the Wrestle Talk podcast. Hey, listen, we're not everybody's flavor. That's okay. But I particularly enjoy what you guys do because you're very forthcoming, you're very honest, you're very transparent. But on one of those live feeds, there was a former Kansas City wrestler who used to go by the name of Dak Draper. At least that's how people around here know him. Well, he was on there and he was running his mouth and disrespecting everybody. I'm curious, man. Is that something that at some point we're going to see resolved inside the square circle? Or is Dak Draper just kind of trolling from a distance? Is that something we don't even need to necessarily worry about?
You know, that's definitely been a topic of discussion. Dak has made his presence known on multiple of our posts and voiced his opinions on what we're doing. The general consensus with us is that we wish Dak Draper the absolute best in all of his current endeavors. He's a great athlete.
He is.
Great wrestler. But as of right now, I can't say, he's not in the area anymore, as we all know. So I can't really give you a straight answer on it, except for the fact that we have nothing as of this moment.
Well, listen, I know Dak Draper. I know he keeps tabs on everything that goes on in this area because I see him pop up every once in a while on our stuff. And I'd like to issue a challenge to Dak. Dak, if you're going to run your mouth all the way from the great city of Baltimore, which, by the way, we do have Wrestle Talk family over in Baltimore, why don't you come to Kansas City and show the fans of Journey Pro what you can do? Because you know what? Unlike you, Jake something said, hey, you know what? You're going to book me or I'm going to ruin your show. And guess what? The great folks at Journey Pro were able to find a way to find a soul brave enough to face off against Jake something, because that's the way that you guys apparently conduct business, and I respect the hell out of that. I really, really do. And that's one of the matches that I'm most excited about. So I know that opponent has yet to be revealed, but there are some other matches that we know about, and that is the besties in the world against the Left Coast Gorillas, and then, of course, Jeremy Wyatt, defending the Gateway Heritage Championship against Matt Cross. Man, if you could give us a quick summary of how excited you are about this card and why people should be there tomorrow night, man, I would really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I will give you a quick summary, but I will say there is a fantastic write-up on the Besties match and the Gorillas match, as well as the Cross Wyatt match at www.journeyprokc.com. My partners work tirelessly on putting together some really cool content for that, so I encourage everyone to check it out. But for those listening right now, I mean, if you haven't gotten the chance to see the Besties square off with the Left Coast Gorillas, I've gotten the pleasure to see it in the past, and every single time they show me something I completely didn't expect, and they leave it out there. You can tell that these men know each other very well, and they take advantage of it every chance they can get. So that is sure to be a hell of a match. Always, I think damn near every match on the card has potential to steal the show, but those guys are notorious for doing it quite a bit.
Like every time? For real.
Yeah, every time.
Yeah, they do kill it, man.
Absolutely.
And lastly, man, just so that folks have the information right there in front of them, man, where exactly is the show going down? What time does it start? And how can they get in there? How much does it cost? What's the pricing? And give us the whole spiel if you don't mind.
Absolutely. But first, I do want to touch on, I hyped it up. I got so excited about the Best and the Gorillas, forgetting that you also mentioned Cross and Wyatt. If you have only seen one of those gentlemen perform, then you know that they're one of the best in the world. If you've been lucky enough to see them both, I literally can't imagine what they're going to do. In my mind, when we were able to book this, it was a certified dream match for me. I can't say how lucky I feel to be able to even be a part of something like bringing those two dudes in a ring together. I mean, it's going to be unreal. If you've seen anything that Jeremy Wyatt has done this year, he continues to amaze me every step of the way. And to put him against Matt Cross, I mean, we all know Matt Cross is a legend for a reason. There's no way you get into the position you're at without being one of the absolute best there is.
And for those of you guys, and pardon me, DJ, for those of you guys who are like, I think I've heard that name before, but I'm not really sure, okay? He is also known as Son of Havoc, one of the most successful wrestlers in Lucha Underground history. So if you didn't know, now you know. Now you got no excuse not to be there. No excuse.
No excuse, absolutely. Jump on Netflix right now. Go to Lucha Underground. It's still on there. I don't know. You should be able to watch it anywhere. And find Matt Cross matches. Find Son of Havoc matches. And you will be thoroughly impressed. And that is the kind of action that you're going to see against Jeremy Wyatt, who's, in my opinion, one of the absolute best wrestlers on the face of the planet right now.
Hey, no arguments here, man. Well, listen, before we let you go, bro, this is the opportunity, man. What do people need to know so they can get their stinking asses down to the show tomorrow night?
Absolutely. So, Journey Pro, we make our debut tomorrow, like a rainbow in the dark, live from Kansas Hall. That's 7300 West 119th Street in Overland Park, Kansas. That's in the 1 block South Bar District. You can buy tickets to the door. Front row is currently sold out. There are some floor seats left, and general admission is still available. General admission tickets, $15 at the door. Floor seating, $20 at the door. No change in day of price or anything like that. We just want to get people in, have a great time. It is a full bar atmosphere, so that isn't one of those things that Kansas City Wrestling maybe isn't used to. So come in, have a good time. We run it at an 18-up venue. Let's go out there and have a party.
You know what? Let's go out there and have a party, man. Lord willing, your boy will be there at the show tomorrow night, man. I am super excited. The moment it was announced, the moment I saw Gabe get in the ring at that Anarchy in Kansas show, I knew something special was about to happen, man. And without a shadow of a doubt, it did, and it's getting ready to come to a rowdy and exciting beginning tomorrow right here in the great state of Kansas, in the beautiful city of fountains, Kansas City. DJ, thank you for your time, bro. I will see you tomorrow night, man. Let's have a cold one after the show, all right?
Let's do it. Thank you so much, Renee, for having me and all the kind words. I can't wait to see you, and let's get after it tomorrow, man. I'm looking forward to it.
You got it, bro. Peace.
7 o'clock. Let's go.
Let's go.
All right, man. Have a great night.
Absolutely incredible. And you know what, Jonesy? As if that wasn't enough, dude. As if that was not enough, Jonesy, we are not going to take a minute. We're not even going to take a second to catch our breath, bro, because we're going to move on to our first featured guest of the evening, man. This is a gentleman that I've been pretty darn excited to have an opportunity to talk to, because he loves pro wrestling the way we do, Jonesy. He covers it. He watches it. The man lives it and breathes it. All right. And the reason I say that is because he's not involved in the world of professional wrestling in one facet. No, he does play-by-play commentary for East Coast Wrestling Alliance and New Moon Rising Wrestling. This man is also active in journalism, writing for Pro Wrestling Illustrated, OneWrestling.com, ProWrestling.com. And now he's taken a little bit out of time out of his evening to join us right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast with Joe and Renee for the very first time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in the homie, my amigo, Brady Hicks. We're live, baby. What's up, Brady?
There we go. There we go. Now I'm on.
Is that music?
Hey,
Damn it, intern Timmy.
Music.
Every single time. We gotta start paying our interns around here, Jonesy. You see that? Brady, I believe we have you. What's up, man?
Yeah, I'm here. I am here. How's it going? I saw the name of the episode is All Time Low. I hope that's not a reference to me coming on.
No, not at all.
Okay. All right.
No, not at all. But I will tell you that's something we want to talk to you about, because you are a writer of professional wrestling, which means you have to have an objective look at everything that goes on in the world of pro wrestling. So I got one question, then I'll throw it over to Jonesy real quick. But man, the ratings of WWE are at an all-time low, and the support for independent wrestling is at an all-time high. A guy that's been a fan of pro wrestling since you were literally knee-high. Bro, what are your initial thoughts on why this is happening? What can you say that would help explain this phenomenon?
It's a terrible thing. It really is. And I would love to see nothing more, Renee, than to see like wrestling take off like it was 20 years ago. It's such an amazing time. But I mean, at this point, I think WWE just needs the competition. They need something to drive them and to push them. And without that, they're just going to continue to stagnate. And it sucks. It absolutely sucks.
Dude, it does suck. And I guess I want to rebuttal before I throw it over to Jonesy. You know, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, Brady, I watch Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. I enjoy it still. I see the positives, but at the same time, you know, I'm a member of the media, so I got to stay up on the current product. Bro, I didn't necessarily have a problem with how they started Raw. I love the Corbin and Seth Rollins exchange. I love the transparency where they're talking about the ratings. Even Michael Cole is talking about the ratings. So you would think that the realism that continues to evolve in the world of pro wrestling would be helping the WWE, because now they don't have to necessarily fool the fan base. They can be a little bit more honest and more transparent. But for whatever reason, it's not working, and I don't understand why.
Well, I think it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of catch on. But one thing that I really liked about that opener, and I definitely talked about it last night on my podcast as well, I love the fact that they're addressing it. You know, the elephant in the room, they're not ignoring it like they would have done in the past. They're coming up with an artificial reason for why that's happening. In this case, it's Baron Corbin, and he's the reason behind these struggles that they're having. But I see it as an opportunity, not just to address the problems and try to tackle them and let the fans know and acknowledge what's wrong, but I like the fact that it can signal maybe the change in the storyline to get away from Baron Corbin as the GM, maybe start to move forward on the program and find something a little more interesting.
Well, you know what? I sure hope that ends up being the case, because I personally continue to enjoy the product. I just don't know why everybody's so sour on it at the moment. Maybe Joe can come in here and shed a little bit of light on it. Joe, why don't you jump in here? Because I know you were telling me as we were prepping for the show how excited you were to talk about a man that's, you know, from Philadelphia himself, Brady Hicks. Why don't you come on with us?
Absolutely. And I actually wanted to start off with this with a question. Recently, we had posted something on the Wrestle Talk podcast, the Joe and Renee Facebook page, and it was basically a question. It's talking about how wrestlers on both a national and a local level have developed sort of a habit of educating their fans. Basically, you know, shooting on their fans and whatnot. And do you feel that that is good for business, or that that's not good for the wrestling business?
I mean, it's such a broad. It's such a, you know, to talk about painting it with like really broad strokes. I mean, I guess it depends on what the purpose is. You know, if the purpose is traditionally, as they'd say in kayfabe, like to draw heat, to get people angry at you or whatever, I think there's a real opportunity with social media and the way things are now with the level of fan interactivity, especially in the independent level. I think it can be a really good thing, but there has to be a payoff there. You know, that there has to be the opportunity for the comeuppance. You know, there has to be the opportunity for the good guy to come and kind of salvage the name or whatever. You guys were talking earlier, you know, when I first kind of got on and I was in a hold there, you were talking about Dak Draper, somebody that I'm really familiar with through the ECWA. And Dak is one of those guys. He's very vocal and he's very outspoken, but at the same time, regardless of what he says, he's somebody that I think people will come out to see him kind of get his, you know?
It's a great answer.
Absolutely. Renee, what are your thoughts, Renee?
Well,
I just wanted to know what your thoughts were too.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, Joe. And let me say this, because I had a couple of workers message me, and you know, we're fortunate here on the Wrestle Talk podcast to have been around for so long that we've developed some outstanding relationships with some very credible talent throughout the world. And I had one of the guys that's kind of one of the foundations of St. Louis wrestling, and he's like, well, Renee, he's like, here's what I think. What I think is that your post is exactly what the problem is. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, your post, you're basically doing what the wrestlers do and that you're criticizing them for. And I said, well, wait a minute. I said, maybe you didn't understand the context. And so allow me to provide the context and maybe it'll help. And so in my opinion, when I posted that, the context was not so much educating the fans in a sense of, you know, telling them the inner workings of the business, but more some of just the blatant, mean and disrespectful things that wrestlers will say to fans and also other wrestlers that they really have no business with. I mean, I can understand one wrestler trashing another wrestler in an attempt to build up to another match. But to things like, you know, the trash baggers, you know, guys that are on a certain echelon of professional wrestling in their area, ragging on the guys that are, you know, quote unquote, the yarders. And then anybody who supports the yarders is an idiot. You know what I mean? So there's just a lot of that stuff that goes on that I think is somewhat distasteful. Now, that's just personal. That's how I feel. That's how the Night Owl feels. Doesn't mean everybody else has to feel that way. But as far as I'm concerned, there needs to be a line there. Okay, because at some point, I'm sure people have been on the fence about going to a show and they're like, wow, you know what? That guy that I thought was really awesome in the ring, it turns out that he's actually a prick. And you know what? I'm not going to go pay 15, 20, or 25 bucks to see the show, because why would I go put money in that guy's pocket? I mean, it's a very, very thin line. And I was just curious to see what everybody else thought about it. Brady, your thoughts?
Absolutely. I could.
My thoughts about as far as people not wanting to pay money to see somebody that's running other people down online. That's what you're. Yeah,
correct. Do you see that as something that could potentially backfire?
Well, sure. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I've seen it with local promoters. I've seen it with some promoters that I work with. You know, where you're trying so hard to draw heat, or you're trying so hard to be a little controversial. I think it was Eric Bischoff used to say that controversy creates cash. And like, I think to a certain extent that's true. Absolutely. But you do want to be really careful there, because at the end of the day, you're trying to run a business, and that business depends on fans coming out. And if there's too much negativity associated with the product, you can definitely do more damage than good by kind of stepping out like that.
Well, sure. Appreciate your honest thoughts on that. Joe, I believe you had another question, man.
Oh, I do. You know, when I found out that you were coming on to the show, I did my research, and you still have interviewed quite a few people that are pretty famous. You know, you've interviewed Jake the Snake Roberts, you've interviewed Bill DeMott, you've interviewed you know, actors and you know, you Gene Snitsky. What has been your favorite interview that you've done so far?
Wow. Okay. I have. Is it cheating if I give you three?
Top five.
All three for different reasons.
Top five is good with me. Yeah, that's all good, bro.
I can do top five. I don't think I could count down, though, because it's hard to put them in order. First of all, Shawn Michaels was kind of my introduction to the wrestling business. My story kind of started, it involved a girl, like a lot of stories do. You know, I was working for a local newspaper, and my girlfriend at the time was my editor, and she knew that I was a wrestling fan, so she sent me out to interview Shawn Michaels. He was at a local university getting some sort of community service award or something like that in Philadelphia. So I came out, I interviewed Shawn, and during the course of that interview, like, I just had an opportunity to talk to him, and I just told him, like, how much I really wanted to get involved in some way. Growing up, I always thought I wanted to be Bill Apter. if that makes any sense. You know, aside from the hair, I always want to be Bill Apter.
Hey, bro, I hear you. Which, by the way, Bill has been on the show. Bill has been on the show, and he is a member of the Wrestle Talk family. So shout out to BA.
He is a good dear friend, and he's become a mentor for me over the years. Absolutely. So Sean told me that I was just a couple miles away from Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and he offered to kind of put in a word for me. So I submitted that story and you know, a nice cover letter and with the reference from Sean. That's how I got started with Pro Wrestling Illustrated. So I think that was probably my most significant interview, or at least the one that meant the most to me at the time. I had the opportunity to interview AJ Styles a couple times.
Wow.
And I mean, he just such an incredible talent, as you guys know. Mm-hmm. And it's such a pleasure to have seen him kind of emerge from like his time in Ring of Honor and TNA and New Japan and really become a focal point of WWE. It's funny because when I interviewed him for TNA, he said a couple things that got him in trouble.
Uh-oh.
I got him suspended for a week, but or whatever it was, a couple weeks. But it was such a fun interview, and it was the first time I think that like the dirt sheets really kind of paid attention to our podcast. So that was one. My God, there have been so many. Another one that comes to mind is Serena Deeb. A number of years ago, she was coming off the Straight Edge Society run that she had with WWE, and I had kind of formed a little bit of a personal relationship with her. Like I kind of, you know, we knew a good deal about each other, and we were getting pretty friendly and stuff like that. And she was just so like outspoken about a lot of the issues that she had with like kind of drugs and alcohol and what led to like her leaving WWE at the time and everything. So for me, like as a storyteller, and I try to always like find the best stories in an interview, I think Serena Deeb is one of my favorite stories to have presented in an interview. So I'd say those three.
Awesome. Now, you're not just a writer and an interviewer, but you also have been a professional wrestling manager. You know, you've managed wrestlers in Combat Zone Wrestling. You second-handed the team of Reckless and Romance, Matt Riviera and Jeff Jarrett against Demolition, which is freaking awesome.
Legendary, dude.
It was cool.
Is there anything that you haven't done? That's the question.
Is there anything that I haven't done? Well, I'm not physical enough to get in the ring myself. If I remember correctly, that match with Demolition, they had one of my decent friends, Stacy the Cat Carter, was in their corner, and that was kind of like around when I met her, and she walloped me with the chair, man. She got me good. I'm not physical enough, you know. I don't like to get hit. That's why I'm not a wrestler. That's why I don't often get in the ring. But I took some punishment in that match. So one thing I've never done is win a title, and I probably never will.
There you go. All right, why don't you go ahead and step on the music? I didn't want to take up all of the time, so the floor is yours, sir.
But no, listen, I appreciate that, Joe, and you know, when we're talking to somebody who has had these experiences in professional wrestling, I think it's I would assume it's a little easy to get somewhat jaded. So I'm curious, man, considering you've been doing this for a while now, has it changed the way that you intake professional wrestling? Is there a part of you that can still accept it from a fan's perspective, or is it very much a work thing for you? Not work in the sense of like a work, but like work, like, you know, a job. Have you found a way to keep yourself far enough away from it to still be able to enjoy it from a fan's perspective?
I think so. You know, you have to be able to compartmentalize it depending on what you're doing or what aspect of the wrestling business you're kind of engaging in. One of the charms, I think, of the podcast that we do on Tuesday night, and I'll make sure to plug that on the way out, by the way, if that's okay.
Oh, please do.
One of the things that, yeah, absolutely, because I do the show with some fantastic co-hosts, including the maestro from WCW, and my good friend Kathy Fitz, and a couple other people as well. But one of the charms, I think, of our podcast is that we approach it like fans. You know, we talk about what we enjoy, what we don't enjoy, a lot like you guys do, you know, and there's a real human element to it. And I think that's important. I think it's an important thing. If you want to kind of keep your passion for wrestling, which I like to think that I have, you need to always remember to look at it like a fan and what's enjoyable and what works, you know. I think that's important. Now, as far as, like, let's say I'm at a booking and let's ECWA, for example, my home company, I do play-by-play commentary for them. I was the ring announcer for about a year and a half since Bob Ortiz retired. Former ECW announcer, became an ECWA announcer, but when he retired, I was kind of like the bridge for the other announcer there now, Marlon Dinkins. And, you know, in addition to the commentary with my man Phil Sly. And like, when you're working as a job, you know, when you're providing a service, like I understand you guys have done commentary, at least one of you have, there's a degree of professionalism, and you're not just a fan in a suit. You're part of the overall presentation, and you're there to tell a story. So being a fan, or like the enjoyment factor, while it's there, I think it takes a back seat depending on why it's there. The most important thing, I think, is to just have fun, to just enjoy it. You know, this isn't like stock market analysis. You know, it's supposed to be fun, and if it's not fun, then I think there's something wrong with it.
So what you're telling us is after.
Speaking of,
Oh, go ahead. Jump on in, Joe.
Sorry, I didn't. Yeah, I was going to say. Speaking of the maestro, he is actually a pretty good friend of mine. He does wrestling shows around my area, and I have actually had the honor of being a referee in one of his matches and being put in his post-face chicken ring. Yeah.
Well, he's never done that to me, so I guess he likes me a little better.
Yeah. He is an amazing guy, and I really hope that one day get him onto the podcast. Maybe one day, maybe.
I don't see why not. Rob is one of the most professional yet most friendly and authentic. In a business, I think, full of a lot of backstabbers and snakes. He is one of the most genuine people you're going to meet. Especially to have gotten the level of success that he's had.
Absolutely.
No doubt. No, it's all good, dude. Small world, right? Like, I'm in Kansas City, Joe, you're in West Virginia, closer to the Baltimore side, and then obviously, you know, Brady, I know you're up in the Northeast as well, but you know, somehow we're all connected through this crazy world of professional wrestling, and I think it's outstanding. I actually want to jump back.
The Chiefs are my number 2 team too, by the way. I've always been an Eagles and Chiefs fan. All
right, well, you know what? Let's hit that real quick because. Okay. Okay, so here's what's great, right? So last year, the second week of the season, by the way, for those who forgot, the Philadelphia Eagles are still your reigning defending Super Bowl champions, and this year's not going so well, but they still are the Super Bowl champs. And so at the second game of the year, I took my son, Fury, aka Damien, to his very first ever professional football game, and it happened to be the game against the Eagles at Arrowhead Stadium. And I said to him that day, I said, son, I said, not only is this your first football game, I said, you are looking at the 2 quarterbacks that will carry the NFL for the next 15 years. And sure enough, Carson Wentz went on, and I know it wasn't all him because of Nick Foles and all that stuff, but he helped lead the Philadelphia Eagles to a Super Bowl for the most part. And then this year, there's a good chance that Patrick Mahomes is going to end up being the NFL MVP. So that prediction ended up being correct, okay? And I'm very, very proud of that. I'm glad that we got an opportunity to go to that game because it was very, very exciting. And the truth of the matter is that the thing that I love most next to professional wrestling is NFL football, man. And it's great that we have that in common because I know you guys are having a little bit of a tough season this year, bro. I know it's been hurting. I know it's been rough. So for that reason, we want to ask you to join us in what we affectionately refer to as the Shoot and Shout segment on tonight's edition of the Wrestle Talk podcast. Gives you a little bit of an opportunity to vent anything that might be frustrating you. It's usually all in fun, and it doesn't even have to be wrestling related. Would you do us the honor, Brady, of joining us for tonight's edition of the Shoot and Shout segment?
I mean, I'd love to, yeah, but I don't know what to complain about.
Well, you know what? We'll go first. We'll let you go last, but you better close us out strong.
Fair enough.
Let's do it. Intern Timmy, hit the music, baby. Let's get in the Shoot and Shout tonight.
It's just one of those days when you don't want to wake up. Everybody sucks. You don't really know why, but you want to justify. Take someone's head off. You don't come in contact.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Who's starting this thing up? And are you or me?
Well, Joe, you were off last week, so as far as I'm concerned, you need to get your ass to work.
Yeah.
Go ahead, bro.
All right. It's funny that you say, well, because this is my Shoot and Shout. How crappy is it that you have pneumonia, you have a doctor's note saying that you cannot work, and you come into work on your first day back, and you get called into the office because you got bitten up because you weren't at work because you had a doctor's note. Even though you have a doctor's note, you still get bitten up for not being at work. How crappy is that, Renee? They shouldn't be able to do that, I tell you. They should not be able to do that.
Well, I'll tell you what, bro. I can't sum it up any better than WWE Hall of Famer, the Iron Sheik.
Fucking bullshit.
I love it, dude. Well, you know what? My Shoot and Shout hits a little bit closer to home. And Joe, you're going to hate me for this, but my Shoot and Shout is against you. That's right, Joe. You left me stranded last week, and I know you were sick, and I'm not trying to give you a hard time for that. But when you come back and you say, Night Owl, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do Wrestle Talk episode 225. We got some tremendous guests. Let's go, let's go. And then you come on and you can't even remember the website, man. Come on, bro. You're killing me over here. I feel like reaching through the damn phone and choking you out, bro. How the hell are you not going to remember the website? We're paying for it, man. We put money into it. We put time to it. And then you give people the wrong website, man. I swear if I was any closer to you, I'll stick my foot straight up your candy ass.
Got him.
Got him. All right. That's the best I got. Brady Hicks. Let's go, baby. Hit one out of the park for us.
Oh man, you know what? There's so much anger there. I don't know if I can, if I can meet that. I'll tell you what. Okay, this kind of burned me a little bit today. For those who know me, they know that I like warm weather. I hate cold weather. I hate the fact that it's 25 degrees outside right now.
It sucks.
Today on the phone, I had the pleasure of talking with a dear old friend, Rich Swann, professional wrestler, formerly with WWE. He's with Impact now.
Baltimore's own. Shout out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he left the Northeast Corridor, that asshole, to go down to Florida. And he's living in Florida. And he's complaining to me on the phone that he has to drive from Orlando to Miami.
Oh.
I'm like, I'll bet you it's warm out, though, and you're going to Miami. And he's like, yeah, it is. And I am. That asshole. He's in the warm, and he's going to Miami.
No.
I love Rick.
Well, listen.
That's all I got.
No, listen, Brady. I can relate. Because you know, your boy, I actually grew up in Boca Raton, Florida, and now I live in Kansas City, and every single day I wake up, I have a hard time not stabbing myself because of this crappy-ass Midwest weather, and I know it's not any better up in the Northeast Corridor, man. And I'll tell you what, I appreciate you being a good sport and joining us for the high spot segment tonight, man. Well, with the few moments we have left in tonight's interview, I wanted to cover a couple of things. One, tell us where people can see your latest work. Also, promise us that you'll make some time for us early next year so we can continue this conversation, because I know we've left a lot on the table. And then lastly, and I'm going to be a little shameless here, man, if you could put in a good word for us for some of your buddies out there, including Rich Swan, that might be interested in enjoying a fun show like the Wrestle Talk podcast, man, would you please do that for us? We'd really appreciate it.
Well, okay, to tackle your last thing first, I mean, I can put in a word. The best thing I can say is that with social media and the way things are today, it's so interactive. You know, there's an opportunity to reach out to almost anybody. But I mean, absolutely, I'll put in a good word for anybody.
Appreciate it.
So there was that. Now, what was number two was where am I featured? Where's my work featured?
Yeah, where can people read your stuff? Where can people catch you at a show? Where can people get them some more Brady?
I got you. Okay, so I'm doing the whole shill. All right. So I am a contributing writer for Pro Wrestling Illustrated. I have been for about 13 years now. You can catch us online, pwi-online.com, or the magazine racks,
right,
wherever you can. So I'm very proud to be a part of that. We just had our PWI 500, which is always much talked about, and the female 100 expanded from 50, which I love contributing to both. By the way, just a side note, another question that I frequently get is my favorite memory from PWI. And in my case, it was getting The Miz #1 in the 500 one year. That was all me. So I take the heat for that.
And he deserves it. And he freaking deserves it, dude. Listen, I've made the argument.
He did that?
I've made the argument before that when it comes to who can take a microphone and make something happen, top three, in my opinion, Stephanie McMahon, The Miz, #2, and #3, you can insert a good amount of different people. You could say, you could say Kenny Omega, you could say 100 other people, but The Miz, in my opinion, is definitely in the top 3. I'm glad that you fought for that, bro, because The Miz is one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time. Entertainers, let's just say, one of the most underrated sports entertainers of all time, my personal opinion.
No, thank you. So, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, you can catch my stuff there. My podcast, In the Room, airs Tuesday nights at 9/8 Central on VOCNation.com. I am the half owner of VOC Nation. I acquired it a couple of years ago, business partnership with my good friend Bruce Word. It kind of started out as a terrestrial radio show here in the Philadelphia area, and I'm really proud of how far we've taken it in the cloud. So definitely, everybody, be sure to check that out. In the Room, VOCNation.com. It's myself. It's Stro from WCW, Kathy Fitz, Matt Grimm, Derek McDonald, and wrestling journalist and author. He wrote Bobby Heenan's 2 autobiographies, Steve Anderson as well. So I have an incredible team. And all the shows on VOC Nation are quite great, I think. So definitely be sure to check out VOCNation.com. And the third place that you can find me is ECWA, East Coast Wrestling Association, ECWA Pro Wrestling.com. I am the voice of the ECWA. We are the ones who are known for the annual Super 8 tournament every April.
Yep.
And we have a great time there. So everybody be sure to check out ECWA.
Hey, guys, the Super 8 in Philly, the Super 8 out in Cali, both of them are absolutely crazy. And it's crazy because we were talking to Dirty Ron McDonald a couple of weeks back, and he was talking about the Super 8 out in Cali. So, and then ACH was participated in a few of those as well. Well, Brady, I guess the very last thing I wanted to say, unless you had something else you wanted to share, was, man, let me tell you something. You're a busy guy. You're quite frankly living many, many people's dream, and myself included, where you get to cover professional wrestling almost for a living, and you deserve it, man. We're one of the hardest working guys in the business. I did quite a bit of research. Obviously, we couldn't cover all that in a 30-minute interview, which is why I'd love for you to come back sometime next year. And at the same time, we want to welcome you as the newest member of the Wrestle Talk family here tonight, man.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun. And I don't get to do these that often. You know, usually the pressure's on me to come up with the questions. So I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Thank you. And yeah, definitely. You know, whenever you'd love to have me back, I'm there.
You got it, bro. Joe, say goodbye, bro. We're going to go to break and then come back with the world's premier fantasy wrestling segment, the FWWC.
Hey, man, it's been a pleasure. Can't wait to talk to you again. You have a great night, sir.
Take care. Thanks, guys.
Adios.
Peace.
Peace. Joe, I don't know what happened during the intro. See, there it is again. Bro, I don't know what happened during the intro, but that interview was amazing.
Yes. I agree. It was absolutely 100% amazing. And we're not done yet. We still got the FWWC. We got the Snippets of Truth. We got Greg Oliver. Let's go to break for 2 minutes, and when we come back, let's do the FWWC. What do you say, sir?
Sounds good to me, baby. We'll see y'all in 2 minutes.
Muted.
Bear this longer to bring you all of my heart. And I tried, I have been.
Hey, Brady, are you there?
I'm here, yeah.
Hey, bro, I just wanted to take a second, man. We're kind of going right in the middle of the break right now, just to thank you so much, man, for coming on the show. I hope you enjoyed yourself, man. We always try to make it fun for the guests, and I meant what I said. If you want to come on sometime early next year and continue the conversation, man, we'd love to have you.
Oh, dude, I loved it. I had a lot of fun. Thank you, definitely. Yeah, just let me know when. You know, talking about wrestling and talking about myself are two of my favorite things in life.
You're a mark for yourself. Love it, dude.
Totally.
Yeah, and no doubt. And shout out, hey.
I buy my own merch.
No, I got you. Hey, I would do the same thing if I could afford to produce it, bro. I'm telling you. Last thing, bro. I know you're a big sports guy. The 76ers, man, I'm watching you guys pretty closely. I don't have a basketball team here in my city, but I'll tell you this, bro. I'm excited to see Joel Embiid, especially, you know, since he's a Kansas Jayhawk, right down the street from me, University of Kansas, man. You guys are looking great. you got a great team looking forward, bro, for the next couple of years. You should be pretty proud.
I'm excited. You know, they're a good young team. I like the Jimmy Butler trade. A lot of people were down on it, but I think it'll help them a lot.
That dude is clutch, man. All right, bro, I'm going to get back to the show. Feel free to hang on and keep tuning in, man. Thanks again.
Thanks, Renee.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you.
But that is, ladies and gentlemen, we have the opportunity to, you know, we have the best fantasy wrestling group on the planet. I'm going to say it, the best fantasy wrestling group on the planet. We cut promos, we had matches for championship belts. It's a lot of fun. I've been doing it for about 3 years now. It's been absolutely amazing. Looks like we got Renee back. What's going on, sir?
Hey, no, it's all good. I apologize, guys. Brady's actually still tuning into the show, which I was like pleasantly surprised. And I had to go over and ask him about the 76ers, man. I grew up down in South Florida, like you guys know. You know, I grew up going to Heat games and stuff. And since I moved to Kansas City to be with my wife and her family, I haven't really had the opportunity to do that. But, man, I'm going to try to get out to an Oklahoma City Thunder game because that's only about 3.5 hours from here. But he's so lucky because the 76ers are absolutely on fire right now. So I had to jump over and talk to my man Brady. But, yes, I did overhear what you were saying. Dude, the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling promotion, man, these guys cut promos, okay? They compete for championships. And it's not the old E-Fed system where some jackwagon somewhere writes everything and it's all based on how entertaining you are to him or how good of buddies you guys are. No, this is all about promos. We make live picks during Raw, SmackDown, NXT specials, and pay-per-views. And so truly, in order to be elite here in the FWWC, you have to be willing to put in the work. You have to call into the podcast tonight. You have to call into the podcast, the exclusive FWWC podcast tonight, hosted by Curtis Black and Marcus Mayhem, which will air right here on WrestleTalkPodcast.com tomorrow night, starting at 7 p.m. Central Time. Okay? That's what you got to do. You got to put in the work. And the rewards are grand. Okay? They are grand because if you win a championship in the FWWC, we will actually mail you a championship belt to your house that you can keep as long as you are the champion, and then when you lose, send it off to the next guy. And then every once in a while, Jonesy, every once in a while, you know what we do? We have these pots for the Warrior Shark Championship. Hey, man, just a couple of weeks ago, somebody walked out with $100 by making picks during Survivor Series, dude. It was freaking nuts. I love the FWWC, but my favorite part of it are the characters, the people that come out of the FWWC. And I'm looking at the phone lines, dude, and guess what? They are absolutely blowing up right now. And the first guy that I think we need to talk to is a guy that always has a strong message to deliver. He is a member of the Saviors of Funk. He is a man that has already been a double champion here in the FWWC, and a man that is pursuing a former member of the Saviors of Funk. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the show, the man that resides in darkness, Daniel Grimm.
How's it going, Night Owl?
Hey, man, if I was doing any better, I'd be you, bro. What's going on tonight?
Not a whole lot. You know, the whole thing with Curtis Black didn't exactly help, but, you know, I'm still working, and I just so happen to be in line for another championship besides the FHC, so I'm grand.
Well, Daniel Grimm, listen, I know that you just came out of a highly competitive series against your brother, Curtis Black. Now, he recently returned to competition.
Former brother.
Well, my apologies. Former brother, Curtis Black. He actually just came back after being gone for close to 6 months because he was attacked by fellow members of the SOF. I'm curious, man, now that you guys have faced off against each other in the ring, he obviously got the better of you this go around. Is it time to put those things behind you? Can we possibly see a reunion of Curtis Black and the Saviors of Funk, or is that something that that is only going to get worse as time goes on? What would you say about that?
Kind of all depends on everybody else in the Saviors of Funk. It's not my choice. I mean, Curtis Black, it'd be nice to have him back, but ultimately, you know, he's got some issues that he needs to work on himself. And I could say we could put everything behind us, but it probably won't happen because I'm going to be still breathing down his neck. He's going to be by mine.
Well, you know what, Daniel Grimm, I believe everything that you say, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out. But as I look at things, you know, your former brother, Funky Flex, is no longer with the company. Your other brother, Savior Saint, is now busy running the red brand here in the FWC. So from my perspective, you're basically standing alone. What does that mean for you now that you don't necessarily have somebody to stand by your side?
Well, it's kind of ironic, you know. The last time I had someone, quote unquote, standing by my side, they turned on me, and then I went and became a double champion. So, not to say anybody that in the Savers of Funk has turned on me, but I can handle things on my own when it comes down to it. Like, for instance, I'm the more contender for the FHC. I'm also in the contender or qualifying match for the Legends Championship.
Fair enough. You are most definitely handling your business, though you were not able to come out on top in your pursuit of the Hardcore Championship. Well, Daniel Grimm, like we do with everybody else, we would like to give you an opportunity to make a final statement before we move on to another caller. What would your final statement be?
My final statement, let's talk about that guy, Big T, the current FHC. The man who said, I'm not putting in work for a program. Where has he been? See, I ain't heard from you. You say I'm deserving of being contender. You're undeserving of being the champion. So why don't you just go ahead, hand it over to me so you don't have to worry about getting your ass kicked from TLC.
Well, damn. That's wild. Listen, it sounds to me like Daniel Grimm is not pulling any punches. Big T to Paisan, all I can say is, where are you at, homie? Where are you at? You are being called to the carpet right now by Daniel Grimm, and you're nowhere to be found. Big T to Paisan, usually an avid watcher of the Wrestle Talk podcast, but at this point, he has not shown up. And I'm anxious to see if he decides to show up tonight in order to rebuttal Daniel Grimm. Okay? Now, as we move on, we do have another caller on the line. A man who recently had an opportunity to face one Alexander Jones. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and bring on Kronos. Wait, what? Oh, not this again. You got to be kidding me right now. Namaste. Well, that unmistakable music, ladies and gentlemen, is of one Alexander Jones. Alexander Jones, we were getting ready to introduce the man that defeated you a couple of weeks ago to move on in the Intercontinental Championship tournament, and here you are interrupting the show. Do you care to explain yourself?
You know, I've tried to be positive. I've tried to get rid of all of this negativity, but it seems that all that I do is lose, 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 and lose. I lost and now you're playing this crybaby music. Absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't expect anything less for a loser. I wouldn't expect anything less for a loser. I lost to Kronos the Titan of Time. I lost to Daniel Grimm. Let's just face it, Alexander Jones, Nightmare Jones, is a loser.
Wait.
I said it. I'm the loser.
Wait a minute.
Are you happy right now?
Alexander Jones. This does not sound like you, man. Usually you take these things in stride, man. Namaste, man. What happened to the peace? What happened to center yourself, bro? All of a sudden you're going to throw it away because you took a couple of L's, bro? Come on, man. Come on, that doesn't sound like Alexander Jones to me.
It's tough to continue to not have negativity and see the positivity, then all that you do is lose. It chips away a little bit at a time. Little bit after little bit after little bit after little bit after little bit, it chips away. I
Well,
wouldn't expect it any less.
hey, listen, I got no control over the boards, man. I'm just hosting the show. Okay, you need to talk to the FWWC universe about that. Now, I'm curious because I do want to try to get to the bottom to this situation with you basically like giving up on yourself. I'm very surprised. I don't know. I'd like to credit this man because he was the one that knocked you out of the Intercontinental Championship tournament. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. One of our most loyal listeners, longtime member of the Wrestle Talk family. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about Kronos, the Titan of Time.
Hello there. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Yeah.
All right. I had to make sure because I didn't hear it say unmute. You know, it might have been happening over that namaste music that we had going on there.
Could have been.
You know, I'm not going to take credit for this. I won't. Nightmare Jones, Alexander Jones, Computer Jones, Stuff Jones, Loser Jones, whatever you want to be next. It's all decided by you and only you. You're not going to blame Kronos time to time. You're not going to put that on me as the one that caused you to go down this path. What I did was let you know and help you realize that you're not going to force enlightenment upon someone that looks like you need to go ahead and do some more in that journey. Speaking of journey, tomorrow night, I think there's Journey Pro Wrestling.
Yes,
So,
yes,
you're not even
yes,
here to take the
yes.
area.
Your boy will be in the house.
I may be able to be in the house depending on if I'm medically cleared.
Hey, bro, we can watch the show. We can watch the show and watch the game at the same time. How you like that?
Hey, that sounds like a plan. That sounds like a plan. That's a win-win situation. I mean, all I got to say is right now, I'm in a win, and maybe even another win situation coming up for Sunday night. See, all I have to do is put a promo out. Something that instills fire, that instills passion, that displays what the United States is truly about. And who's better to do that than a two-time United States champion as myself? So I'm hoping that our wonderful, recently crowned Blue Brain General Manager is listening in, because I am taking the time right now to make it be known. By end of evening, Friday, I'm going to give myself to about 9 p.m. Friday, you will have a promo from Kronos to Titan of Time that obviously will show you why I am going to be in the match for the United States Championship this Sunday night, as well as I am in the match for the Intercontinental, as well as the Legends Champion. That 3-crown championship, that's what I'm aiming for. That's what I want, and that's what I'll get.
Well, you know what? I am one that will never doubt Kronos, the Titan of Time. I've seen him go against the very best in the business and hold his own. Kronos, I'm going to give you the respect that I give to everybody else who calls in during the FWWC segment, man. What are your final thoughts tonight?
I'll go ahead and be simple. Just like the Chiefs that are Super Bowl bound, if you're not from Kansas City, I suggest you start wrestling Kansas City. You can jump on the bandwagon. You can jump on that Savior of the Fall. That what was the last one? They left. La Familia is the longest lasting faction bandwagon if you want to, but you better be a deserving and contributing member, because no one else is there for you but yourself. And if you want to be a part of something, you need to
able to prove something.
Absolutely agree with that, Kronos. Well, listen, look forward to seeing you tomorrow night at Journey Pro. Go Chiefs, absolutely, man. And hopefully, whether it be for the Intercontinental Championship or the United States Championship, we hope that you come out on top this Sunday at FWWC TLC. Because you know what, Kronos? You've been here through many eras, and you've been one of the most consistent guys to ever step foot in the FWWC. And I hope you don't take this disrespectfully, because I mean it with nothing but affection. You, sir, are one of the most underrated superstars in the history of the chapter. We talked about that a little bit earlier with the Miz, Brady, Hicks, and PWI, which is huge, really all around the pro wrestling world. I'll compare you a little bit more to Dolph. Held the World Heavyweight Championship, held Tag Team Championship, multi-time Intercontinental Championship. But for whatever reason, Kronos shows up and people act like they forgot. Somebody needs to go back and listen to that Roy Jones song. Y'all must have forgot. When you hear that song, I want y'all to remember my man Kronos, because he's always here. He's always at the top of the conversation, and he's always competing for championships. And that is the standard that we want people to uphold, not for a week, not for a month, not for a year, but for as long as you're in the FWC. That is the standard that needs to be upheld, ladies and gentlemen. So kudos to you, Kronos. Nothing but respect from the board of directors. Now, Jonesy, we do have one more caller, and, you know, it's always difficult for me because I like to give credit where it's due, but then some people are like, you're going to give me my credit or else. This superstar is a multi-time FWWC Universal Champion, and it's gotten to the point with this man that he now requires intro music or he refuses to come on. So we're going to go ahead and accommodate that request, because you know what? Every time he comes on, he does bring the heat, and I got to give him that respect. Okay? So, Izzy, I got you. I got some information to you about the FWWC. Dude, if you want to come on and be a G-string wearing in your promo, that's cool. If you want to educate those G-string wearing pussies in your promo, then you can do that. It don't matter. FWC is for everybody. Holla at me. We'll make it happen. But intern Timmy, let's go ahead and hit the music. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome a man that resides in the jungle, hailing from Jacksonville, Florida, the one, the only, the Battle Cat.
I'm too sexy for my love, too sexy for my
What?
love.
What?
Going to leave.
That's not it. That's not it.
Whoa.
No, that's not it. That's not it. Turn that off.
Okay. Cut the music.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Battle Cat, hold on a minute. Battle Cat. Intern Timmy, stop playing games. Can you please hit Battle Cat's real intro music? Come on, man. I'm not trying to have trouble with the other board of directors members.
Intern Timmy.
We need to hit this man's real music. What was that?
Fire.
Intern.
That's the song I was told to play.
Why are you doing Intern Timmy's job, Joe? That is not the right song.
Intern Timmy should be fired.
Can't fire the man from his own show. Can we get Battle Cat's intro music, or are we just going to skip it? What are we doing here?
We can skip it this time. But next time, Intern Timmy need to hit the right music.
Yeah, for real. All right, Battle Cat. Let's try to move forward here. Okay.
All right.
Jeez Louise.
Every day I wake up, I tell myself, I say, Battle Cat, how can you make people hate you even more than what they do? And it's simple, you know. I can go to Walmart, piss all over the bathroom floor, not put a wet floor sign, and hope somebody slips in it. Or what I can do is I can go to Walmart. I can go to McDonald's, spike some old lady's coffee with a cup of laxative, and just watch them shit on themselves all day, you know? I can do all that kind of stuff, you know? 'Cause that's how I think when I wake up in the morning. But I want to talk about Monday. You see, Monday, I had a match with, I guess he wants to be called Rick Price now, whatever.
The Warrior, the Warrior.
You know what I'm talking about. But whatever, yeah, him, that guy. Anyway, now you see, I didn't beat him, he didn't beat me.
I could have beat him, but I didn't want to. You know why? Because I want to fight him again at TLC. And when I do fight him at TLC, I want to put him on a shelf. Now, if I would have put him on a shelf Monday night, I wouldn't have an opponent Sunday. You see what I'm getting at?
So wait, so you're telling us that you took it easy on the Warrior just so you could make sure he was healthy enough to make it to TLC?
Yeah, I wasn't going to finish it all on Monday. I want to have some fun Sunday. I like to hurt people.
That's
if
true,
I
you
hurt
do.
him on Monday, what good would that do me on Sunday? If I would have hurt him on Monday, what good would that do me on Sunday? I mean, come on. What I'm going to do, go out there and hurt myself? Just have a match with myself and be the new / still Universal Champion? Yeah, that don't make sense.
Well, you know what? I can't argue that, Battle Cat. And ultimately, as we look forward to speaking with Greg Oliver of Slam Wrestling, I can't help but say this. You have had a lot of success here in the WWC. And, you know, once we get past TLC, and I'm not asking you to look past TLC for no reason, but we're coming up on Universe Mania 5, okay, next year. And we've seen a lot of growth here, and you've played a big part in that. Can you tell the folks out there that maybe aren't 100% sure what we're even talking about right now when it comes to the FWC, what your experience has been, maybe not only as a character, but as a person being a part of the world's premier fantasy wrestling promotion?
It's the best experience that you can ever have, man. You know, go ahead, go on, was it WrestleTalk.com and look at, was it the tab, right? The FWWC tab?
Correct.
And there's all kind of amazing stuff there. It's all kind of amazing stuff there. You know, they have the watch parties now. You know, I haven't had a chance to make it to one yet, but I'm hoping I can soon. And it's great, man. It's very, very great.
Well, you know what makes me excited, man, more than anything else is not only do people have a chance to win championships, we mail them to your house absolutely free. You get to cut promos. You know, there's a lot of people out there that have a dream of being a pro wrestler but can't. It's either financial, physical, or whatever it may be, and the FWC gives people the opportunity to do that. And I know you really enjoyed that. And I know you and I and Joe have developed quite the friendship because of the FWC, and I think that's probably the main thing that sticks out to me is the fact that we really truly become like a family and a community that loves pro wrestling, but we don't only just want to sit there and watch pro wrestling. We want to be involved, and the way for us to be able to do that is with the FWC. So I want to thank you for being a part of that, and also to thank you for being a multi-time champion, which is not easy to do. It's not easy.
Right. And I got to shout out to Nene, man, because he's the one that hooked me up with you. You know what I mean? He's the one that introduced me and all.
Nene.
Hey, shout out to the Voodoo Master. Shout out to the Voodoo Master.
That's my hometown brother right there.
Oh, he is indeed. Well, Battle Cat, we do have to start looking towards our second featured interview of the night with Greg Oliver. So why don't you go ahead and give us your final thoughts, man?
Well, TLC, you already know where to find me. You already know what's going to happen. But all in all, I want to say have a good night. And how about some Cowboys? I see you didn't bring that up this time.
Well, listen, I'm not a Cowboy hater. I'm really not. All I know is that listen, all I know is that number one, the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in professional football right now, okay? And number two, okay, the Cowboys are great. Okay, the Cowboys are great, but when they run into the Chicago Bears, that's when I want to see what they're really made of. Because at this point, the Bears are going to be in the playoffs, and the Cowboys could still miss the playoffs. So I know you're excited, okay? I know you've seen Dak Prescott, and you think he's the next Patrick Mahomes. All I'm saying is let's wait and see what happens when the playoffs start or whether or not the Cowboys are actually there or not. How about that? Just being fair.
I'll tell you, the Bears defense made Jared Goff look like a coward. They made him look trash, okay? But I'm going to tell you something. This Cowboy defense is far better than what people are thinking right now. We'll wait and see. They meet up with Chicago, and hell, I hope they go to Soldier Field when they do meet up with them. It'll be just that much sweeter when they beat them at Soldier Field.
Thank you very much, Battle Cat, for your thoughts, bro. You know how we do it around here. We talk wrestling. We're talking about Bill Apter, and then we're talking about, you know, interviews with Shawn Michaels. And you know, Joe, I love Wrestle Talk, man. Episode 225 has been absolutely off the chain so far. And guess what? We haven't even gotten into our second featured interview of the evening, man. If you would be so kind to do me the favor, Joe, of introducing our next guest who is joining us for the very first time tonight.
Oh my goodness, this is going to be absolutely awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a guy that is synonymous with slam wrestling. He's the writer, he's the editor, he is the producer of it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our honor and privilege to bring on a man that needs no introduction, and that is the one, the only, Greg Oliver.
What is up, Greg?
Mr. Oliver, welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. I hope you're all standing with attention for that.
We were. I even removed my cap. I even removed my cap. And guess what, Greg? I am holding in my hand a bandana that I got earlier this year in my trip to Vancouver with the maple leaves on it, representing Canada. So I am a huge fan of your country and an even bigger fan of you and your work, man. Thank you for being here tonight.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, guys. I'm glad you're a fan. I appreciate that. I've been doing this for, about 30 years, so I'm no Bill Apter, but I have been doing it a long time.
Well, you know what? You've been doing it for a long time for a reason, and it's because you're great at it, man. And you know, hailing from Canada, you almost kind of have a built-in fandom, I would assume, to professional wrestling, because some of the best wrestlers of all time have hailed from Canada. So I'm curious, there's obviously a little bit of national pride there. Let's start there. What was it like for you growing up in Canada, and how were you first introduced to this crazy world of professional wrestling?
That's sort of the odd thing, actually, is it was Hulkamania. I really didn't get into it. I missed out on the glory days of Maple Leaf Wrestling out of Toronto, when they had, you know, the NWA and Ric Flair and Steamboat and all those guys, and I was never into it. It was Hulkamania. I got into it, got really interested, and then that led to me studying and learning more about it. And man, there is quite a history of pro wrestling in Canada, and I was privileged to get to know so many of those guys just by my nature of living in Southern Ontario. I was able to have lunch with the Billy Red Lions, or hang out with, you know, Waldo Von Erich, or my wife wrote Dewey Robertson's book, who was the missing link. So, I mean, I got to know just about everybody at some point. I feel very privileged that way.
Well, yeah. I mean, from my perspective, man, I would definitely feel honored and maybe even a little spoiled to have that opportunity to catch up with those legends. And you know what? That was, I guess, almost just the beginning for you, right? With Hulkamania, at some point you decided to take your talents of writing into the world of pro wrestling. So I'm curious. I'm always interested to see how people decided to take that leap of faith from being a fan to actually getting involved in the business. What was that transition like for you, and what sparked it?
Well, I suspect I'm a little bit older than you guys, but long story short is we got an Apple IIe computer, and you know, one of the programs we got back in 84, 85 was a desktop publishing program. And so we started playing around, my brother and I and one of my buddies, and we decided, hey, wrestling's hot, let's do this. So for a quarter, we were peddling it at school, and my dad worked at an office, so he was able to, you know, photocopy it, and it sort of took off from there. And 5 years later, the Canadian Wrestling Report retired, so I could go to university and actually learn how to be a journalist. I had zero thoughts that I wouldn't get into journalism school. Let's put it that way. I also worked at a local newspaper for a year. So I knew that's what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to write. I knew I loved the news business, and that's where I ended up.
Oh man, that's very, very cool to get an opportunity to go into something like that and then basically get a chance to kind of live out your dream. And through the years, I'm sure you've had some pretty gnarly experiences going to shows, talking to different talents. Is there one that comes up in your mind from your early days doing journalism of pro wrestling that was one of those moments where you're like, wow, I can't believe I'm actually at this show. I can't believe I'm actually talking to this guy. Can you recall any of those moments, Greg?
Well, there's a lot of different times that you just get fortunate, right? One of them, my mom owned a flower shop for a little while, and we went to a restaurant nearby one day, and Angela Mosca and Milton Ruskin were there. And they invited me down to the Pro Wrestling Canada taping. They were basically trying to bring the NWA back to Toronto in the heyday of the NWA, of the WWF. And so they were fighting a real uphill battle. So they were very welcoming to have me down at the TV tapings. And then that led to, we're at the local shows, and here we are interviewing Road Warrior Animal and Ivan Koloff and guys like that. Looking back, they're ridiculously kayfabe interviews. And I'm sort of embarrassed by them, and yet I'm not. I mean, it's just part of your growth, right? You learn how this business works. You learn how to deal with people. You learn how to ask the right question. You know how to learn the nudge, nudge, wink, wink nature of professional wrestling. And so I made those available. The Canadian Wrestling Reports are actually for sale. They're like $5, and you get the entire set as a PDF. So why not, right? It's part of my history.
Wow, that's incredible to me, and I'll tell you what, to have had the experiences that you had already in your business as you continue on with Slam Wrestling has got to be quite exciting. Well, I do have one last question before I throw it over to my co-host Jonesy over here. I'm thinking of the time that you spent in wrestling to the present, and presently we decided to name today's show All Time Low, which even though Brady Hicks asked us a little earlier, I said, no, that's not in reference to you being on the show, because he thought that was kind of funny. What it's in reference to is the very blatant open dialogue that WWE's having with their fan base about the poor ratings that the product is having. They even use it as a form of a storyline this past Monday. So having the history that you have in the world of pro wrestling, I guess I'll ask you the same question I asked Brady a little bit earlier. What could you attribute that to? Are we just in a lull right now? Or are people just kind of turning their attention more to indie wrestling? If you could put your finger on it, Greg, why would you say that they're struggling right now, specifically with the ratings over at WWE?
Because there's 6,000 channels now. That's the thing nobody ever talks about. If the product's good, sure, more people will watch, but it's never going to be like MASH, where there was, half the viewing audience watching. And even you look back at the glory days of Monday Night Raw and Nitro, there was fewer television stations available. Now you have, all the streaming stuff. You have this, you have that. It's comparing apples to oranges. I mean, the ratings are still good for a product like it is. It's not great. I'm not saying it is, but you're never going to get back to those ratings. So I think we need to stop looking directly at those comparisons, because it's unfair, right? Watching football, the NFL doesn't get the same ratings it used to, because there's so much more to watch in other ways.
Yeah, the spoiled nature of the way that we can consume the product now definitely is a huge attribute in my opinion, and I appreciate you sharing that with us, Greg. Joe, I want you to jump in here, because I know you're about this interview. You yourself go back a few years in the world of pro wrestling as a referee, as also a co-host here on the Wrestle Talk podcast for a little bit over 5 years as well. Why don't you jump on in, man, with any questions or thoughts you might have?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the questions I wanted to ask you was, you are the co-founder and the producer of the Slam Wrestling website. Now, for those of the Wrestle Talk family that don't know what the Slam Wrestling website is, what is Slam Wrestling?
Well, long story short, the Toronto Sun newspaper wanted a website, and I was a part of the day one guys that built the canoe.ca website. Wrestling was hot. We had Monday Night Wars about to begin. This was 1996, 1997. So we had wrestling content from the Sun newspapers, including Bret Hart's column in the Calgary Sun. And we had the Ottawa Sun, the Toronto Sun, both had wrestling content. And so we pulled that all together and built a site around that. Through the years, we've been able to use Sun content and the greater Post Media. We're owned by an even bigger media company now. And through it all, we kept our little fiefdom of writing about pro wrestling, whether it's the TV reports or, you know, the photo galleries we became really well known for, or whether it's the original interviews that we've done, and you can't really name anyone I haven't interviewed, and right down to, you know, the different columnists we've had through the years. I mean, we had Bret Hart, we had Cyrus, Don Callis writing for us, we had Portia Perez, we had Johnny Devine, Hotshot Johnny Devine wrote for us, Joey Legend wrote for us, ton of guest columnists from Johnny Gargano right through to, you know, Harry Smith, and right now we have Natalia writing for the Post Media chain. So that alone means that a lot of people have been to our site, whether they sort of realize it was part of Slam Wrestling or not, because those columns get passed around and talked about.
Absolutely. That is definitely amazing that you have been able to do that with, you know, with your website and continue your love for professional wrestling. You've also got a award in 2008. You got the James Melby Memorial Award for Wrestling Journalism. What did you think about getting that award?
Well, it was actually a co-award. It was myself and Stephen Johnson, who together we've done 4 different books. We did 3 of the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame series, and then we worked with 2 other gentlemen, Irv Muchnick and Heath McCoy, on the Benoit book, the first one that came out, and it's been the bestseller of all of them, just because of the true crime nature. But Steve and I got the award for our contributions to journalism, pro wrestling wise. And what really meant a lot was not just getting the award, but also knowing both of us were friends with Jim Melby, who passed away only a couple of years before that. And to know we got an award with his name on meant a lot. You know, it looks good, but in the end, you got to keep working. And so since then, you know, we did a number of other books, and we have another Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame book coming out next fall of 2019. It's called Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, The Storytellers. And man, it's going to blow some people away, I think. Just the sheer nature, the number of people we talk to, the history that never gets written about. I mean, who else has written about wrestling with smelts, like fish? You know, and you have the bears, you have a monkey in the ring. We're going to have a lot of interesting stuff in there that nobody ever writes about.
That definitely sounds interesting. That definitely sounds interesting. Now, I have one more question before I throw it back to Renee. You know, you have helped write quite a few books. What actually goes into the process of writing a book?
Oh, there's different things. I've done 14 different books, and they're all a little bit different. I did a couple of kids' books, but that's because I wanted to. Duck with the Puck I wrote with my son. I did one about Santa Claus because, again, I spent a lot of time around kids. I was a stay-at-home dad. But then other books come along. I did one on hockey contracts that, you know, it's 25,000 words, but beautiful old pictures and beautiful old documents that, you know, you can knock off in about 3 months. Other ones, like my very first one, the Pro Wrestling Hall of the Canadians, I said took 17 years because it was a collection of interviews. Everything we did through the years builds and builds and builds. So when Steve and I come out with the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, The Storytellers, next fall, it's an accumulation of 30 years of me writing about it. And he also did a newsletter when he was a kid. He got out of wrestling a lot earlier maybe than I did, but he still loves writing about history, and he's a great researcher too. And that's that's a big part of, I think, what people don't realize is the amount of research that goes into these books. I call it a tipping point. I research, and hopefully you've got the interview already, and then you get to a point where you can't do anymore. You just got to write it. And so that's my tipping point, and that happens quite often. There's other things too, like you keep a notebook by your bed. Sometimes you get an idea for a lead, and you write it down in the middle of the night. It's crazy.
You know, like it definitely sounds like, but it sounds like a lot of fun and getting to do all the research and stuff. Renee, perhaps you could step on in there, and if there's any more questions that you can answer.
Well, I do actually, and I'm excited just listening to you guys talk, man. It just kind of sparked a couple of different things in my mind. I guess the first thing I wanted to ask you about, Greg, on the second go round was the book Heroes and Icons. I know that that's a book that you're quite proud of, and it's been very successful. Can you tell us a little bit about what that book is about, and what inspired you to write it?
Well, you needed a balance. We did the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, the heels. You got to do the good guys.
That's right.
The word good guys or baby faces just didn't roll off the tongue, and certainly wouldn't be the sales reps. That's another thing I didn't mention. Of course, you're dealing with sales reps when you have a publisher. So they have a say in how things go. One of our book covers, not the wrestling one of my hockey ones, changed color.
It's not going to sell. It's not going to sell.
Exactly. It's the wrong color. But there is that. So with Heroes and Icons, the idea was to balance it out and do the good guys. But we also came up with the idea that there's iconic figures, right? The anti-heroes, the guys that stood above and aren't really easily defined, like an Undertaker, like a Bruiser Brody.
Roddy
like
Piper.
Punk even. I mean,
yeah, Roddy Piper.
Well, Piper was definitely in our heels book. He was in our top 10 heels of all time.
Okay.
But yeah, Piper's exactly. He became one of those iconic figures.
Yeah.
I have zero problem with that. But it's a history lesson too, right? Our number one babyface of all time is Jim Londos. And we'll debate you any day, anytime. He was the most famous pro wrestler in history. Unless you're counting maybe Carl Gotch, who preceded him, but at that time, it wasn't pro wrestling as we know it. So it's a different kind of thing. But Jim Londos, by far, was a megastar.
Wow. Well, you know what? It's great, and it excites me as a relatively young fan to hear, these names dropped. And, I'm over here vigorously writing things down on my notebook, and I do keep one right by my bedside, very similar to you. And I have to say, when you say the egregious amount of research that goes into writing a book, I know just from week to week doing a podcast, Joe, you can relate. We go through pages and pages and pages and pages of information to try to gather enough information for a couple of questions. You know what I mean? So I could say nothing but good things when it comes to somebody who's willing to dedicate that much time to their research. And I would hope that when we come around the next fall, that you might be willing to come back on with us, Greg, and talk to us a little bit about the book and where maybe people can get their hands on it. Because ultimately, if you're putting 30 years and you're packing it all into one book, it's something that people absolutely have to make sure that they get their hands on. Would you agree?
I hope so. I mean, we want to sell books. Of course, there'll be electronic versions. You can have your PDFs or whatever you like to. But I mean, we see our job both as entertainers, right? You want to write entertaining things, but you also want to educate,
right?
And you also want to write about things you want to write about. So Steve and I tried to find that little balance. I mean, I may not have really got ultimate deletion, but it was something that we felt needed to be part of the tale of storytelling. Whereas like talking to Kenny Omega, man, that guy thinks about storytelling way more than just about anybody else I know. So it's just fascinating people, and it was great fun to work on, and we're looking forward to telling more people about it.
Well, no doubt. And just so people can get a little bit of a preview of your writing style, let me ask a fairly controversial question. You wrote about Chris Benoit. There's been debate. Should he be in the Hall of Fame? Should there be a movie? As a guy who wrote about him extensively, actually most successful pretty much than any other writer up to this point, what can you tell us about your perspective concerning Chris Benoit, and how would you answer those questions? Should there be a movie? Should he be in the Hall of Fame? And then to kind of piggyback off that question, I'll bring it all the way full circle because you mentioned Natalia. A couple of weeks ago, we saw Ruby Riott bringing Jim the Anvil Neidhart into a storyline. Things have gotten very serious, very real, okay? Things are all kind of blurry these days between realism and fantasy. How would you kind of encapsulate all that, starting with the situation with Chris Benoit all the way up to the example I gave with Natalia?
Well, it's apples and oranges. I mean, the whole storytelling being sort of realistic and bringing in a lot more real life stuff. I mean, it's always sort of existed. I mean, Dusty Rhodes was the son of a plumber. I mean, there were always elements. And to me, the Jim Neidhart thing is just an element of storytelling, right? They're not actually going to dig up the corpse. Like, they're just referencing him. And that, to me, I'm fine with that. It's a storyline. Obviously, she would have sold off on it. The Chris Benoit thing is another thing altogether. I mean, I knew him through the years. I actually had some personal emails from him where he talked about getting a journal from Nancy, a diary where he could write down his feelings after suffering through Eddie Guerrero's death. That's all in the book, a lot of the personal letters and things that he shared with me. I actually had called him that weekend, honest to God, because I was working on an obituary about Biff Wellington, who is a guy he basically trained with up in Calgary. And that takes us back to where we talked about at the beginning, all the great wrestlers out of Canada. Biff Wellington never really got a break anywhere, but he was a guy that Benoit knew well, and he had just died too. So that all leads up to his legacy. Well, his legacy is what it is. There will be a movie, no doubt about it. There's nothing anyone else can do to stop that. I don't think he'll ever get into any Hall of Fame, nor probably should he. We've seen there's nothing similar anywhere. Is Ray Lewis going to get into the Football Hall of Fame?
Yep, first ballot. First ballot.
Exactly, but he was not convicted the same way, and he was still alive. So there's all these weird things about
OJ. I think OJ is the closest thing. The difference is OJ is alive to defend himself, and Chris Benoit is not.
Well, here's another lesser example in some ways, because he didn't murder anybody, but he sure made a lot of people really off terribly, was Alan Eagleson, was in charge of the NHL Hockey Players Association. He stole money, did all kinds of things.
Millions.
Really crooked.
Yep.
Basically in the back pocket of the NHL. So he got pulled out of the Hockey Hall of Fame, and his Order of Canada got taken away. So if there was a similar case, if Benoit had committed the crimes after the fact, I think we would have seen something similar where his name would have been stricken from those books too. So I don't think we'll ever see him in a Hall of Fame.
No, yeah, I don't think so either. And you know what? You bring up hockey. We've talked a little basketball and football. I actually happy to be sitting here wearing a Florida Panthers ball cap. And everywhere I go here in Kansas City, Greg, you wouldn't believe it. People think I'm a Raider fan until they look a little bit closer. I guess the most pressing and important question I've asked you tonight, do you think my Florida Panthers will ever even sniff an NHL championship within my lifetime?
My son is a Panthers fan, or was for a little while. He's a big Luongo fan.
Okay.
We followed him all along. We did. We were on NHL radio, Sirius XM. My son and I promoting our Duck with the Puck hockey book, and the guys at the end of the episode, they were laughing because he said he was a Panthers fan. And at the end of the episode, they asked him, "What would you say to any Panthers fans thinking they might make the playoffs?" And my son, who was like 7, he goes, "Believe in Bobby Lou," as in Roberto Luongo. So one day, may not be in Florida though. That's the thing. They got to have the fans going. They got to get the people going there. So believe in Bobby Lou. And Reimer's the backup there. He was a pretty good goalie here in Toronto. So I guess we'll see how they do this year. But they've got some good young talent. Believe.
Yeah, thank you for not giving me any false hope, man. I really appreciate it. Oh, Greg, man, awesome that we can go from wrestling to hockey to Benoit to talking about fun stuff. So listen, the last thing we want to handle with you at a respective time is we do a segment here called the Wrestle Talk Podcast Challenge, and I felt doomed before. I've talked to Savio Vega. We've done this with Ted DiBiase. We've had the privilege of talking to some incredible minds of professional wrestling. But I'm fairly certain that Luke Roberts and my co-host Jonesy have set me up for failure once again. And even if they hadn't, your history and your mind for professional wrestling, you know, I hope to one day know as much as you've forgotten over the years. So I would be honored if you would join us in tonight's edition of the Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge.
Sure. I just hope there's not a lot of stuff on the current game because I don't watch very much pro wrestling.
Oh gosh, and I pray that
it's
all on Monday Night Raw from last week because I watched it all the way. I can only pray, but I doubt it.
I just like to say I pay other people to watch it for me. That's how Slam Wrestling works.
Oh, jeez Louise. The man pays other. No. All right, enough of that. All right, intern Timmy, hit the music. Let's get into tonight's edition of the Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. Tonight's contest is scheduled for the best 2 out of 3 falls. All contestants are the Nate Renee Martinez and Slam Wrestling's Greg Oliver. In a few moments, I will ask you 3 questions about a particular professional wrestling topic. Whenever you think you know the answer to the question, just shout out your answers, and the first person to win 2 falls will win tonight's Game Show Challenge. Tonight's Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge is simply titled the Professional Wrestling Name Game. In a moment, I will give you the nicknames of 3 professional wrestlers. Whenever you think that you know who I'm talking about, just shout out your answer. The first person to answer with 2 falls, to win 2 falls, will win tonight's contest. Seems pretty simple. I'll give you a couple clues. You guys shout out who you think is the person I'm talking about. Does everybody understand?
Yep.
Crystal clear. Let's do it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, here you go. Question number 1. This WWE Hall of Famer has gone by the nickname Stunning, the Ringmaster.
Steve Austin.
Steve Austin is correct. Greg Oliver has 1. The Night Owl has none. All right, question number 2. This professional wrestler has gone by the following nicknames in WCW and the WWE. White Thunder, the Genetic Freak, and the Big Bad Booty. Scott Steiner is correct.
Damn it!
Greg Oliver has 2. The Night Owl has none. Okay, this is the third question.
I can't get swept.
This is your opportunity. This is your opportunity. Okay.
Jeez Louise, I knew this was going to go bad.
This retired professional wrestler has gone by the following nicknames: the Shooter, the Iceman, and the Man of 1,000 Holes.
Malenko.
Dean Malenko would be correct. Greg Oliver has won the Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge with 3 wins to none. So here is your music.
All I do is win, no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they stay there.
Congratulations.
That's exactly how I feel right now. How you gonna put me in like a science quiz against Bill Nye, the Science Guy of wrestling? This is not even fair. It's not even fair.
Those weren't even hard questions.
Well, apparently it doesn't even matter what I think. Listen, I had the answer. I was just a little slow to answer. You were quicker than I was. So nothing but respect for you for that. Listen, Greg, that's how we conduct business here on the Wrestle Talk podcast, man. Quite frankly, just seeing you do your thing from a distance, we admired you quite a bit before you decided to join us, man. But now there's a whole nother level of respect that you are that you decided to join us, and that you are now the newest member of the Wrestle Talk family, man. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Awesome. Last little bit of business before me and Joe wave goodbye. Can you tell us where folks could potentially keep up with you on social media, or where they may be able to pick up one of your books?
Yeah, absolutely. Oliver Books, all one word, oliverbooks.ca, which is, of course, the short form for Canada. And that's where all my books are. It's got links to just about everything I do, my Twitter, my Facebook. Slam Wrestling, you just Google that pretty well at this point. It's a complicated URL, unfortunately, being part of a bigger company, but just Google Slam Wrestling, or just Google me. I mean, I've got a wiki page. I got to be important, I guess, right? But it's a lot of fun keeping up, and just as I've been doing this 30 years, I've known fans who've been subscribing to my stuff and reading my things for 30 years, which is quite endearing and quite meaningful to me.
Ain't no doubt about it. Joe, why don't you go ahead and say goodnight, man, so we can sign off.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming on to the show. You are an amazing guest. Hopefully you'll be able to come back onto the show at some point, because we'd love to talk to you a little bit more.
We'll make it happen.
You got it. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, Greg Oliver has a wiki page, and he's one hell of a big deal. Thank you, man. Such a great time. We will make that happen again, hopefully very, very soon. And shout out to Canada. You guys see the bandana. I got this in Vancouver. It's not a joke. Ladies and gentlemen, episode 225 is in the books. We're going to hit you with a little Cold Meal Productions, and then we're going to close it out with something funky to send you guys home. We'll see you guys next week, man. WrestleTalkPodcast.com, at WrestleTalkCast through all social media. You know how we do business. Nightmare Jones, Jonesy, Alexander Jones, Joe Lance, and the Night Owl, keeping it official like a referee with a golden whistle. You guys have a good night. Peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Drew Doherty, and I am the co-founder and owner of Cold Meal Productions, and you are listening to the absolute best wrestling podcast there is on the internet. And if you're here, you are lucky that you found it. It is time for Wrestle Talk with Joe and Renee.
Facebook Live tomorrow night. Please share this broadcast. We do it for you. Wrestle Talk Podcast, baby. If you can find me at the Journey Pro show tomorrow night, I got a gift for you. That's right, you and you and you. Thank you, guys. Episode 225. Out, baby. Out.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.